everyone, this is Albert Valentin, aka World Film Geek. Welcome to the second episode of the World Film Geek podcast. We have Courtney Gains, an 80s iconic character actor, best known for his roles in Children of the Corn, Back to the Future, Can't Buy Me Love, Colors, and a whole ton of other films. He's also a musician with his band Ripple Street. We also talked a little bit about his latest film, Queen Bee, and some of his upcoming projects. So I hope you all get to enjoy this. And yeah, so pretty much enjoy the interview and take care.
Man, I am so honored to be talking with you today. I'm a huge fan of some of your work, and
thank you very much.
It's mind-blowing. And
you got quite the video collection behind you.
Yes, I do. Everyone's been saying that. And matter of fact, I just happen to have the original Children of the Corn that you're.
There you go. Is that the one that I did the audio, me and John behind the scenes stuff? Is that on that one?
It might be. I'm not sure. This is the Anchor Bay edition. So
I think so. I think we did it for Anchor Bay. So
yeah.
I think there's commentary on that one.
Yeah, I'll have to check the commentary out. Man.
I think it's me, John Franklin, and Fritz Kearse, the director.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
I think it's the first time I ever did commentary.
Wow. And this was your first movie, actually, if I remember right.
That's correct.
That had to have been a blast to do, like doing a horror movie as your debut.
You know, back then, number one, horror was not as mainstream and as popular as it is now. Mm-hmm. It was considered, B movies and, looked down on upon. I remember we got bad reviews. I got bad reviews.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't so popular. Not that it wasn't popular in terms of getting recognized. That happened, but that also was crazy because John Franklin and myself both talked about, kids would see us and go running to their mom crying. You know what I mean? Like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
That we were not mentally prepared for, but playing such a tough character.
Yeah.
I can't say I was having fun. It was my first film. I was very, very serious. And I was like, I got to prove I belong to myself as well as to Hollywood. Like I could do this, so I was deathly serious. Now I would probably enjoy myself a little bit more.
Yeah.
Relish in playing the bad guy, but then it was my first film. I had to prove I was, I didn't suck.
No, you didn't. I thought you were excellent. And showed my daughter the movie. She's now 11, but she's in the horror movies herself.
Uh-huh.
We watched it, and she was like, "Dad, that redhead guy's kind of scary." And I'm like, "Yeah, but he got onto bigger and better things. I mean, he got to appear in Back to the Future, which is one of my son's favorite movies.
Nice.
He loves Back to the Future." And when I told him that I'm interviewing you, he's like, "Who was he in the movie?" And I'm like, "He's the guy who cut in line, trying to steal George from Lorraine at the dance after he knocks Biff out." I remember he's like, "Step out and fly." I'm taking over.
Scram McFly. Yeah, I've heard that many times.
Yeah, that must.
That's what I write on conventions. Scram McFly. I'm cutting in, right?
People and that's like the only scene you were in, basically, in the whole.
I was in like a few scenes, and one scene got cut, which I guess I've later found out is in the after stuff. There was where I locked him in a phone booth. Christmas character in a phone booth, but that got cut. But there was this scene where I'm kicking him in the butt down the hall, and that I put a thing on him that says "kick me."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that was Now that I think about it, that was awesome.
But of course, the memorable scene is because it was
right.
Even though the small role was a very pivotal moment, right? If he doesn't kiss her, then the family doesn't exist, right? And it's when he finally it just mans up for himself in life. So
imagine if we were in an alternate universe and you actually ended up stealing her, how crazy that would have been.
That would be an alternate universe, that's for sure.
And then you did Can't Buy Me Love, where you played the nerdy friend of everyone knows him now as McDreamy. And
yes,
you got so abused in that movie. I felt so bad, but it reminded me of myself as a kid because I was the same way. And when Patrick Dempsey gives that inspirational speech at the end, that was just amazing. And ironically, coincidentally, my high school became like that, where it was no more cliques so much. It was more everyone together in one community. And I was like, did they watch Can't Buy Me Love and got inspired by that speech?
In fact, when I talk about, movie making and the power of cinema, in fact, I have had guys who were jocks in high school say, like, I was my senior year, I was looking forward to hazing the scrubs, and then I saw that movie and I couldn't do it anymore. And I'm just like, wow, like if you stopped one kid from getting harassed,
yep,
you've done something pretty powerful, you know?
He did.
And that movie seemed to do just what you were talking about. So it's really actually amazing to hear from you saying that you had the same experience, and perhaps that movie did have some influence in that happening.
It did. I mean, yeah. I mean, I was bullied in like middle school and high school. And then, you know, I've seen other people get bullied, and I've always tried to play peacemaker in a way. But I wasn't really popular. If anything, I was popular by last name because of my brothers, because they were like the jocks, and I was the nerdy brother. So it's more like, okay, well, you know. But then my whole class got along. We only had 64 people in our class, you know, compared to like big city schools. But just to see us all together, like as friends, I think that makes a big deal on its own.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I was in like two opposite universes. I was playing basketball, so I was with those guys, you know, jocks. And then I was in the drama department, and like in my school, those were like two like worlds that did not, you know, meet, never shall meet. But I didn't care. I wasn't popular in either one, but you know, like even in drama class, no one was really taking me seriously, you know, because we were mainly doing musicals, and I was really shy to sing and such. You know, I've since gotten better at that, but no one thought I was going to break out. But I was already in professional workshops, and I knew good acting from bad acting. I used to tell people, y'all ain't so good. And he'd be like, what do you think you are? And I'd be like, you'll see. You'll see. You'll see. I said, this isn't acting. This is singing and dancing. You'll see.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got to prove my point, I guess.
I wonder now, because you mentioned basketball and comedy, if Zac Efron in High School Musical is based on you. Because you think about it, he was a basketball player, and he got into the drama department too. You know,
well, it's not common, right? So, matter of fact, most jocks don't ever find their way into acting until college, and it's usually because they got an injury.
Yeah.
Because there's several guys that were athletes who found their way to acting, and a lot of times it's an injury, or their pro career didn't pan out or whatever, and they're not necessarily the most emotionally available actors, but they succeed, and there's reasons for that. Usually, you know, they're not bad looking, you know, they're physically conditioned people, but two, their whole life they've been taking direction. Their whole life they've had coaches and told them, so they're very available to listen and take direction. Three, they've been very committed to something and disciplined to do that something and succeed at it. Just to even get to the college level in sports, to me, is quite an accomplishment. And they're able, and they've been winners their whole life. So they take those things with them, and it rubs off. It's something that can take them, you know, fairly far as an actor.
That's awesome. And you just kept going. I looked at your IMDb credits. You have not stopped at all. And you talk about my video collection, actually like a guitar collection in the back. So how did you get involved with music? Is that from your drama days or the theater, or?
Yeah. So, you know, in the 70s, I mean, you know, music was, you know, like video games are today. I mean, music was like, you know, you had music stores, and everybody went to the music store to get the latest record, and rock gods were, you know, the thing. Yeah. So I remember seeing Woodstock when I was a kid, and just being blown away by it, saying like, I want to learn how to do that. That's cool. Yeah. So right around the same time I bugged my parents for years to get into an acting class. So at 13, they finally put me in a class. And that at that same time, you know, my mom was like, you want a birthday party or you want guitar lessons? Because I said I wanted to learn guitar. And so I took guitar lessons. So I started doing both around the same time. And obviously, you know, one took off, and one was, I mean, my intention as an actor to be a professional was there way more than my intention to be a professional musician. I would have approached it far differently. Like as an actor, I've studied many, many methods. I've studied my whole career. As a musician, I studied a few years to learn the basics, and then the rest has been like self-taught. And it's really more about connecting to emotions. What I really love about music is the writing component. Like I'm not like a film, like to me to write a script is like so much detail, you know, it's hard. I don't see myself writing a script, but a song, you can have an idea and in a feeling you're connecting to something that might be bugging you, you're sad about, whatever. And it's a 3 minute ditty, you know what I mean? Right. It's like you put it out and there it is. and it's like instant access. But I really, really enjoy, far more than performing on stage as a musician, I enjoy the process of writing. And then secondly, I enjoy the process of recording, because there's still a lot of creativity that happens in that process.
Yeah.
But the moment of writing a song can't be beat. It's like, after that, I feel like when you're performing a song, you're just redoing what you already did over and over again, and trying to recapture that magic that happened in that moment. You create something. Creating is maybe the closest thing to sort of a spirituality or godliness as you can be, in my estimation.
Right.
So I love writing, and it comes when it comes. You just don't know. It comes when it comes. The inspiration, it just shows up.
Yeah, even for me, it was playing, because I used to play bass guitar, and I dabbled in drums. My dad is a bass player. He plays.
Nice.
He's like Puerto Rican, so he plays that salsa, the old salsa merengue music, and he did it for so many years. And then he retired for a while, and then like occasionally, we're now in Florida. He sometimes plays occasionally with his bands. He has like his own little band that they're always practicing at we have this little room outside the house, and he's turned it into like a big stage thing. And
sure.
So I like that connection as well with, even playing. But yeah, I was heavily influenced by like, the 90s and 80s bands, like Def Leppard.
Then you, if you like the 90s bands, you might like I also have a solo project I'm putting out right now called Acoustic Gains. It is acoustic music, a lot of the material I've had around for years that I always intended to write this album. And during COVID, it was like, well, I got the time, let's do this.
Yeah.
But I also have a band called Ripple Street. And our first record is very 90s grunge.
Nice.
And we've just put out 3 singles this year so far. We're going to finish it as a 5-song EP. But the last song, Would You, was the last single we put out. To say it's Black Sabbath-esque is not a stretch. So I have this very acoustics album, nice, talking about broken heart stuff. And then I got this very, heavy sort of dark song that's out right now. So
nice.
Kind of like my acting, kind of all over the map.
Yeah, you're everywhere, man. You've played all different types of roles too throughout your career, man. It's like, what can't you do at this point? What have you not played? And that's the question, because you played practically almost every possible type of role.
I think that's, when people ask, like, why do you have longevity or whatever? I think I'm a character actor, right? Obviously I look like a character actor. I get that, right? But I think there's a difference between just looking like, you're not a leading man. Okay. So you're a character actor. Okay. I get that. But then there are actors who are character actors who dive into roles and get, to the point where you hope you don't. Like, the biggest compliment for me at conventions is when someone's coming to my table to say, get a Children of the Corn or something. And then they're like, oh, you were the guy in The Burbs? Oh, wait a minute, you were the guy in Sweet Home Alabama? Like, that to me is the best compliment, right?
Yeah.
If you saw the movie and didn't even recognize it was me, especially like I'm red hair, like I'm the easiest guy to recognize, right?
All right.
If I'm able to disappear behind what I'm doing enough that you don't put 2 and 2 together, that to me is like, a critic couldn't say anything better about me. That's the highest compliment I could get.
Yeah, and I gotta say, the character actors are the ones that are, like you said, they have the most longevity. Like, a lot of lead actors that they'll do their leads, and then eventually they'll just falter out and probably end up doing supporting roles, or they go down to doing more independent films, which I love. I love.
Well, which I've done tons of them. That's keep working. But you look at somebody like, say, like a Denzel Washington, where he is a leading man. He stars in films, but he's a character actor through and through, right? I mean, the guy can play a white collar character, and he can play a guy in prison. Not that many leading actors
can do that.
Can have that kind of range, which is why I think someone like a Denzel is a one of a kind. It's like not many can do it all.
Right, and there's actors who are they're always going to be known for one type of genre, and then when they try another type of genre, they kind of like, people are like, why they do this, and what's the whole point of it? But
sometimes though, that it's the success that kills you. It's like, it's the same thing with a band, right? It's like you people love the one thing you're doing so much, they don't want you to vary it at all. But of course, as an artist, all artists want to expand their strike zone. I mean, we can't help it, right? It's in our nature. But some people can. So some of it's timing, and some of it's ability. With me, for example, like, I'm not carrying movies a lot of the time. It's not my sort of responsibility. If the movie fails, I'm not going to get blamed. But if the movie succeeds, I will be part of what helps support that success. So I get a lot of I get a lot more leeway that way, you know. I'm
Yeah.
not, but I also, you know, in the 80s, on that 80s teenage run I had, my goal was to not play the same role twice. Like, I was a conscious decision, especially after Malachi and it breaking out.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to just play that dude for the rest of my life, you know? So I was fortunate enough to get a comedy like Hard Bodies right afterward.
Yes,
and
I love that
Nerd
movie.
and Can't Buy Me Love right afterward. So I had other things immediately. But what I learned was, you know, the industry is like a horse with blinders on. It only sees what's in front of it. And I'll give you an example of how ridiculous that my point is I'm making. So when I got Colors, you know, how I got Colors, they wanted a white boy in the gang. Like, they actually knew there were white boys, which blew my mind because most people didn't know that. I did growing up in LA. But my acting mentor, a guy named Virgil Fry, who broke me into the business, he was friends with Dennis Hopper. He'd helped him make Easy Rider. And so when I found out, when we were doing Can't Buy Me Love, Gerardo Mejia and I, who was also in Colors, we did 3 movies in a row together. He knew that I grew up in the tough neighborhoods in LA, and he had gotten the script. And he goes, dude, there's a white boy. And I was like, what? In the gangs? And I read it, and I called my manager, Virgil. He was my manager at the time too. And I said, you got to get hold of Dennis. I got to get this job. You know, nobody knows that there's white guys in these gangs, and no white boy in LA is going to be able to do it the way, you know, I can do this role. Like, I know this role. But as a matter of fact, there was a kid I went to grammar school with who ended up becoming a gangbanger named Billy Red, a redheaded kid. So I was like, I literally know a guy who looks like me that, you know, in these gangs. But Dennis, you know, Virgil got me in on that, and I was able to do a role, you know. But my point is, after I did that movie, my next 3 auditions were for gangbangers.
Wow.
Right? Like, ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Like that's, they're like, oh, you're in this movie and you're a gangbanger? Okay, so you do gangbangers. And you just have to, like, you know, get past that and find the next job you want and get that job. And then, you know, so I'm proud of the fact that in that run, I was able to do dramas, comedies, you know, a wide range of roles and a wide range of types. And I think that that's kind of set the precedent for, you know, me being able to do many different roles in my career. But it's also very funny, certain casting directors, like, there are certain cast, like, say a casting director grew up watching Can't Buy Me Love, that's the role they think I do. Some of them say they grew up with Children of the Corn, they will not see me for anything other than a bad guy. Like, I can't change. They're like, no, you play bad guys. And I'm like, I have. Maybe you should, you know, if you look at some other things I've done, maybe I'll open your mind. But sometimes you leave such an impression on a person that they just decide that's what you are. And with that casting director, they've made their mind up, and that's it, you know?
Well, I'm glad you're one of those ones who went totally against type and did this versatility. I mean, it just makes your career even much better. And you just came out with a new movie with Ellen Burstyn. Was it Queen Bee, I think it was called?
Yeah, so Queen Bees is out right now, out in the movies and on VOD and all that. I only did a cameo, but it turned out to be a little pivotal cameo in the movie, and it made the trailer, which surprised me, which is fantastic. But yeah, I got to work with Ellen Bernstein, Anne Margaret, Jane Curtin, and Loretta Devine. And I mean, you know, they're all 4 iconic actresses in their own right.
Legends, definitely.
Yeah, and what was really great is, so my character, it takes place in a diner, and they're eating and talking or whatever, and my character's watching them and just waiting for a moment to steal her purse. So really, as the actor, I got to sit there and for the first half of the day and just watch these actresses work, who are all very different, but all have very special sort of set of skills, you know, that they're, and as an actor watching techniques, and, you know, this one's a method actor. This one's like, you know, Jane Curtin, her comic timing, you just, you know, it's just, you know, that's something they say you can't teach, right? That comic timing, you know, it's just there, right? And so it was so great to watch them and how they all worked together, even though they all sort of worked differently, right?
Yeah.
That was worth the price. I mean, I just would have been happy just to sit there and do that for the day. But
exactly.
I then
like
work with them, right?
Like, I don't want to steal their purse now.
Yeah.
Like,
so it was a great experience, and I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad the movie's out now, and it seems like people are liking it, and that's great, you know.
That's awesome, man. You have a tremendous career, man, and you know, I personally am glad that you've done everything you've done in these past geez,
Thank you.
4 decades. I mean, you're just, I think to me, you're a legend now, hands down. Like when it comes to character actors, there's nothing more than, you're definitely a legend in my book. And so, man, I'm just like still I'm a little fanboy mode right now, but that's
all good.
totally worth it.
When I meet somebody I want to meet, it's surreal, man. It's like I always try to be very, nice to people at conventions and listen to them, what they want to say about it. Because I know if I meet somebody I want to meet and then they turn out to be a douchebag,
yeah,
I don't even want to see their movies anymore. It totally bums me out,
Yeah.
So
they're like, yeah, no way for me. Like, yeah, you're like beyond the opposite of that. And thankfully, I've met more people like even like a couple of bigger names I've talked to, and they're like they're totally not scuzzy at all. They're like the nicest people you can ever meet. And
well, they find a lot of times people in horror are like the nicest people. They're always surprised.
Isn't that ironic though?
We play bad guys, but we're in life we're not so bad.
Isn't that like, that's so ironic? I've talked to a lot of horror film actors, and like you see them killing people on screen, and then off screen they're like the nicest people you can ever meet. And
what's great about the horror conventions, because I avoided that for a lot of years. I thought, oh, this is the graveyard, I don't want to be there. And then I said, I'll try it, and the guy who's started me in that, Chris Rowe, he's my manager sort of this day as an actor as well, and we've become good friends, and it was the greatest move for me. But what I learned in the horror conventions is, because horror is not big studio movies, whatever, no one's too big there to be too full of themselves, and if they are, it stands out like you're kind of a jerk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. It's more of a blue collar environment,
Yeah,
including the fans. So it turned out to be really fun, actually, and it's been really like doing this today, talking to you. It's been really great to meet fans and realize you have an impact, because sometimes you don't know. I didn't know for a lot of years. You know what I mean? I didn't really know, and now I'm starting, like I said, I'm getting older, and I've been around a long time, and people are like, hey man, like, you've been at this, you're an icon or whatever. And it's good to hear. It's good to hear that you put 30 years into something and that people appreciate what you've done.
Exactly. And I'm glad to see it. I can't wait to see more of your stuff, and I'm definitely going to check out your band, because it sounds pretty cool. And
yeah, you can check us out on Spotify or iTunes or Amazon or Deezer. So yeah, please do. Please check out the band. Got a couple other things coming out, and especially your horror guy you might find interesting. I just found out a movie I was in called Await the Dawn just came out on Prime Video this week. Even the director didn't know. It was a surprise as well. Dee Wallace is in it as well. Vernon Wells is in it.
I talked to Vernon last couple of years ago. Man, he was like, what was it last year? I can't remember when I talked to him like a while back, and he's like the nicest guy. He always plays crazy characters, and he's like the nicest guy offset.
Yes, when he's talking to you, you're like, how are you that dude? And
how are you Wes in the Road Warrior? And
exactly, how are you that guy? Because I just can't even see it's the same guy,
No, exactly.
Yeah, he and I've been in a few movies together now, but we've never had any scenes together. So hopefully at some point we'll get to actually knock heads and see how that goes.
Yeah.
But Dee Wallace is also in it, and I've worked with her a few times, and she's a wonderful actress.
Another icon.
Yeah, so it's a fun ride. Low budget indie horror film, but so that's out. I have another movie coming out July 13th called River. That's an independent movie that it falls in the sci-fi category, but it's not like a lot of CGI or anything. It's about this girl who's having time lapses and not knowing where she's going, and then in the end you kind of figure out maybe she has some alien ties or something. So I don't want to give away too much, but it's a wonder. The role I play is sort of her surrogate father, who's also the psychologist in town, who starts to work with her to try to figure out what's going on. And I had a nice long COVID beard for that. Very different, very earthy, loving characters. So I don't get to play talk. You'll see. It's like talk about characters. This will be a character you haven't seen before.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
And, so it's a fun role. And then I did another horror film called The Bleeding Dark that a trailer just came out for, but I don't know the release date. And I play the lead in that. And I call it a drama horror film because the subject matter is heavy. It's about this father and son who the wife gets murdered at their house by abductees, and the son blames the father, and it's very heavy.
Oh man!
But then the mom starts visiting the son and starts to go haywire. And that's when all the kills are like classic 80s horror.
Oh my God!
CGI,
yeah, definitely gonna.
So I'm interested to see it because usually horror films don't get that emotionally deep, right? They don't, as a rule. So,
well, yeah, thankfully,
it'll be interesting to see how that works. So
right. I've actually watched a couple that were like they started doing something like that, and it usually involves family, like the whole family dynamic. Like someone called Z that came out last year. I saw it on Shudder, and it's about this woman who finds out her son has this imaginary friend, and it's like her trying to stay sane, like at the same time as her son.
Right.
And then there was another one called Son that just came out that I got to.
I've heard of that. Yeah, that's getting a little hype right now.
Yeah, I saw that, and I interviewed the director of that movie, and he was he told me how he came up with the idea, and
maybe this is becoming a bit of a trend, because also Await the Dawn, even though my character doesn't get too heavy in it, the movie has some family dynamics of heaviness too. So maybe this is becoming a subgenre trend, because the actors in Await the Dawn are definitely going for it.
Yep, definitely. Man, that's just crazy.
So those are the latest things to on the list of what I got coming out. So it's nice to have some of these things I've done a few years ago. So it's nice that they're all starting to come out now. You do a lot of these independent films, you don't know when they're going to get distribution. It's hard for an independent film to find its distribution legs.
Yeah, it was so funny because I got this DVD from the producer of a movie called Ebola Rex, and I'm like, because they just sent to me for free, like, yeah, check this movie out, Ebola Rex. And I found out that it got picked up for distribution. It just came out last week or a week ago.
Nice.
So I'm like, all right. I was like, I didn't even know it was coming out, but all right. But yeah, I understand that. And that's why, and I love independent films because they're more original nowadays than.
Of course, because there's nobody telling them they can't do it, and that was why horror films, because horror films, independent in horror were like synonymous for a long time. I mean, would anybody have ever let Romero make make a zombie movie? They didn't even know what zombies were, much less have a black guy as the lead in the movie. Like, all of those things would have been nixed. You know what I mean? So I think that's maybe one of the reasons people do like the genre, is because it's a place where original ideas, that the studios aren't saying, no, don't do that, it's too different. It's just, they're not constrained.
We have to stick to a formula. Like, but that formula doesn't always work. It's just like watching the same movie over and over again.
Well, the studios are interested in making money, right? And they spend a lot of money to make money. So they play it safe. Whatever's hot, there'll be 3 more of those out, instantaneously. But that's it's the film business, right? But that's why, whether it be music or film, independence will always be where the originalities is going to show up. And then what happens is, if somebody original does well, then the studios go, hey, come here and now make movies for us.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
Yeah, now you got like filmmakers from all over, like, other countries doing movies here because their movies are.
You can right now. It's like the Latin filmmakers, the Del Toros, and those are the guys right now. Those are the guys making the movies.
Even the movie Love and Monsters that came out, I felt that was an original studio production. And that's a South African director who did that movie. So it's like,
I don't know if the studios produced it or they picked it up though, right? So sometimes when he makes the
movie, you gotta be a little careful. But yeah, I think they actually produced this one. But Love and Monsters was great. That was a great movie too.
So many of the movies that started in my career. I mean, Children of the Corn was an independent film. Hard Bodies was definitely an independent film. It was the movie I did next.
Knew that.
But it got picked up by Columbia Studios. That's why it was so successful, because then it had a studio behind it to distribute it. Can't Buy Me Love was an independent movie that then Touchstone Pictures, that had just started, a division of Disney, just started. They picked it up. They did reshoots to make it better, clean up the bad jokes, and then they bought the soundtrack, Can't Buy Me Love, which was not cheap, Beatles song,
right?
And distributed it big time, and that movie was the #3 movie of the summer that year. So I had a lot of luck with independent films getting picked up by studios, and that's why because it makes a huge difference the level of distribution you get. I've also produced films, and the ones that I've been fortunate enough to have good distribution, of course, do far better than the ones where you don't get good distribution. I mean, it's kind of, at the end of the day, it's everything,
Exactly. And I do gotta ask this. I know you directed a short film, but have you ever thought about directing a feature film?
Yeah, well, let's talk about the short for a minute because that's fun. So my girlfriend came up with this idea, and she's also a manager. Her name's Karen DeGennaro, and I liked the idea, and I got her to finish writing it, and I was like, "This is good. We should do this." And so I didn't think anybody else was better qualified in her circle to direct. So I said, "You produce. I'll tell you how. I've produced movies. I'll direct it. We'll knock it out." And we had some friends in it. The lead is a guy named Tommy Sheeter, who since passed away. He was a dear friend of ours, and the movie ended up getting in like 15, getting in like 16 festivals and won like 5 awards. So that was much surprise for me. So it's a fun little comedy. We're now looking for a platform to put it on since we've done our festival route the last 2 years. So Symptoms, keep your ear out for that, and you guys can check it out. It's a pretty fun little project. I've been approached to perhaps do direct an anthology horror project. So just be one of the anthologies. I think that'd be the next thing to get my feet wet in and see if I can create the tension that horror needs to do. I don't know. I'll find out. I know how to do it as an actor, but can I do it as a director behind the camera with the camera? I felt much more safe doing a comedy because comedy, the camera work is not. It's really about the acting, right? You can have handheld camera, but in horror and stuff, you have to not create tension with the camera and close-ups or reveals so it might be the next step. And then after that, if someone approaches me, I'm open to it. I don't need to be a director in my life. I've produced like a Candy Corn was a film that I was in a couple of years ago that I started out as an actor. I ended up coming on as a producer. They had some money problems and this and that, and I believed in the project, so I helped champion it and get it through. Producing, I like it. It's a lot of pressure though, because you're responsible for everything. Right. It can go wrong. If anything goes wrong, it's your responsibility. As an actor, I'm only responsible for myself on a set. Right. But as a producer, you're responsible for everything, including the investor's money to get the film done and recoup their money. It's a lot of pressure. But it's also very gratifying when you can take a project from soup to nuts and get it out there. It's a very gratifying feeling. But said, hey, if there's somebody out there who wants to talk to me about directing something, let me know. There you go.
Awesome. Oh man, I gotta say, it's been an honor talking with you about your career and everything you've been doing. I am looking forward to your upcoming releases, especially Awake the Dark. This just sounds mind blowing. So Courtney.
Well, cool. You can reach me on Facebook and like that. So if you see something and you want to let me know what you thought, feel free.
All right. And one more thing. Do you have a message for anyone who wants to get into acting? Do you have a message for them, what they should do? Any advice?
Yeah, I do. And the first thing I always say is, doors can open easy the first time, but if you're not prepared and leave a good impression, they won't open easy the second time. So with that being said, they say success is when preparation meets opportunity, right? So what is preparation as an actor? It's getting a good class and learning your craft. And I take that seriously. I take that very seriously. I was either in a class or teaching a class, most of my career. So you have to keep working at it. And even when you get successful, you have to keep working at it. There's more to learn. That's the great thing about art is you never arrive. You're never great enough. You're never perfect. There's always room for growth, but you got to get good at it. It's not just like, oh, I'll just wake up and be. I mean, there are some naturals out there, but they're far and few between. You know what I mean? The rest of us have to learn, and you have to come up with a method, a craft. How you go about your business. So it's taking it seriously and getting good at what you do, and then when you have opportunities, you'll be able to leave a good impression. And what I always tell people, casting directors are, what an actor has to go through, right? To the director, to the producer, right? Casting directors are the first gatekeepers. If you can get 3 casting directors to believe in you, you can work. And then from there, more doors can open. But if you get 1, 2, or 3, I mean, Children of the Corn, that break happened because that casting director, Linda Francis, had seen me in a showcase and believed in my work. And she started trying to find me work. And she cast me in one other film that ended up falling apart. But, it was her that brought me into that room. And then when I delivered the performance I delivered, she was the one who championed me. There's 3, 4 people who have to make a decision. She was the one going, take that guy. So if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have got my break. I did the work that left an impression, but then she's the one who made it her mission to find me a job. And that's what you got to get a few people out there who fall in love with what you're doing and want to see you succeed.
That's awesome. Well, Courtney, you have had an amazing career, and I know it's going to still go. And I thank you so much again for taking the time to talk about everything. It's been a complete honor as a fan of yours, and I feel totally honored today to have talked with you.
Well, thank you for those kind words. It's been a pleasure meeting you, and yeah, hit me up and let me know what you think of some of the stuff you see.
All right, definitely. You take care.
All right, bye-bye now.
All right, bye-bye.